You know that strange feeling when someone tells you a story about yourself as a baby, and you sit there smiling politely while secretly feeling disconnected from the entire thing? Maybe they tell you about the way you used to laugh at certain sounds, or how you cried whenever someone left the room, or how you refused to sleep unless someone held you close. And logically, you understand that it happened, you know that child was technically you, but emotionally, it almost feels like they're describing someone else entirely. There's no memory attached to it, no emotional replay, just this strange blank space where an entire part of your life should exist. For years, most people assume this happens because babies simply can't remember things yet. But psychologists have been quietly documenting something much deeper and honestly far more fascinating about the human mind. Because the real answer isn't that your early life disappeared, it's that the version of you capable of remembering had not fully formed yet. And once you understand this, it changes the way you think about memory completely. Here's what makes this psychologically interesting. Most people imagine memory like a storage system. Something happens, your brain records it, and later you replay it like an old video file. But modern psychology suggests memory is much more personal than that. Memory isn't just about storing information, it's about building identity. And babies haven't fully developed a stable sense of identity yet, which means they experience life intensely without organizing those experiences into the kind of narrative your adult mind can retrieve later. Think about how your current memories work. You remember certain embarrassing moments because they happened to you. You remember heartbreak because it affected your sense of self. You remember meaningful conversations because they shaped how you see your life. But a baby's mind hasn't fully developed that internal narrator yet. There's feeling, sensation, comfort, fear, attachment, warmth, stress, but there isn't a stable voice saying, "This is happening to me." And without that structure, many early experiences never become accessible memories later. Now, to where this becomes honestly a little emotional, even though you may not consciously remember being a baby, your brain may still carry traces from that time in ways you don't fully realize. Researchers studying early emotional development have found that many emotional patterns begin forming long before explicit memory develops, which means your nervous system can sometimes remember things your conscious mind cannot. The way certain tones of voice calm you instantly, the unexplained anxiety some environments create, the comfort of familiar smells or emotional warmth, the strange emotional reactions you have around closeness, distance, conflict, or affection. Sometimes your body learns patterns before your mind has words for them. And honestly, that explains a lot about being human, because part of your emotional world was built before you were ever capable of understanding emotions intellectually, long before language, long before identity, long before explanation. Here's the part most people overlook. Babies are learning at an astonishing speed. Their brains are forming millions of neural connections constantly. Everything is new. Faces, sounds, emotional signals, movement, safety, attachment, language. But because the brain is developing so rapidly, it struggles to preserve experiences in stable, long-term form. Psychologists sometimes compare it to trying to write permanent sentences on moving water. The system itself keeps changing too fast. So instead of prioritizing detailed autobiographical memory, the infant brain focuses on adaptation, survival, emotional learning. It's less concerned about preserving stories and more focused on answering one enormous question: is this world safe? And weirdly enough, that question can continue shaping people throughout adulthood in ways they barely notice. The human brain starts building emotional expectations about life long before conscious memory begins recording clear personal stories. Something subtle happens next as you grow older. Around early childhood, your brain slowly starts developing what psychologists call autobiographical memory. This is the point where experiences stop feeling completely scattered and begin connecting into a personal timeline. You start recognizing yourself as the same person across different moments in time. Your memories become linked to identity. And that's why later childhood memories suddenly feel more vivid and emotionally accessible. You remember your favorite cartoon, your first school friend, the excitement of birthdays, the embarrassment of getting something wrong in class. Not necessarily because those moments were objectively more important than infancy, but because your brain finally had the structure necessary to organize experiences around a stable sense of self. That's the real shift. Your memories became less about raw sensation and more about personal meaning. And honestly, this explains something many people experience later in life. Sometimes you emotionally react to situations before you logically understand why. You instantly trust one person but feel uneasy around another. Certain environments drain you immediately. Some forms of affection feel natural, while others feel strangely uncomfortable. And often, you can't fully explain where those reactions came from. Part of the reason is that human psychology starts developing before conscious memory begins recording clear personal stories. And once you realize this, you stop seeing memory as the complete story of who you are, because forgetting something doesn't mean it never shaped you. Some of the deepest psychological patterns exist underneath conscious awareness entirely. If these ideas resonate with you, you might enjoy exploring more psychology like this. Subscribing helps this channel reach people who quietly need these conversations, but may not always have the words for what they're feeling. And if you enjoy these deeper psychological dives into human behavior and emotional patterns, becoming a channel member genuinely helps support more videos like this in the future. Now, here's something I personally find fascinating. Most people assume their life begins where their memories begin, but psychologically, your story started long before that. There was already a version of you reacting to the world, learning trust, stress, attachment, emotional rhythm, and safety. You just can't consciously revisit it anymore. And honestly, there's something strangely humbling about that realization, because it reminds you how much of being human happens beneath awareness. Your conscious mind likes to believe it's fully in control, like it's the author of your personality. But psychology keeps revealing the same uncomfortable truth again and again. A huge part of who you are was shaped quietly before you were ever capable of explaining yourself. Now, before this sounds overly deterministic, this doesn't mean your infancy permanently defines you. Human beings remain incredibly adaptable throughout life. Relationships change us, experiences reshape us, awareness itself changes us. But understanding early psychology helps explain why certain emotional patterns can feel so deep and difficult to describe. Sometimes your reactions are older than your words, and maybe that's why old baby videos can feel so strangely emotional. You watch this tiny version of yourself, smiling, crying, reaching towards someone, and it almost feels like looking at a stranger you're somehow deeply connected to. You know that child became you, but you can never fully step back into their mind. That entire world is gone, or at least inaccessible in the way adult memory understands access. And honestly, maybe that's okay, because the purpose of memory was never to perfectly archive your existence. The purpose was survival, learning, adaptation, and connection. Your baby brain wasn't trying to preserve stories for future nostalgia. It was trying to build a human being. And slowly, quietly, it did. So if you've ever wondered why your earliest years feel like a locked door your mind can't reopen, psychology suggests the answer isn't that nothing was there. It's that the self capable of remembering had not fully arrived yet. And once you really sit with that idea, you start looking at your own mind differently. Not as something broken, but as something that was developing long before you were aware of it. Sometimes understanding a hidden psychological pattern doesn't dramatically change your life. It simply changes the way you interpret yourself, quietly, gradually. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere.